Or when people gamble, there is this release of dopamine in the brain, which makes you happy when you win. And also, funny enough, is also released when you lose.
There are some people who even borrow money, right, just be able to gamble.
Gambling addiction is compulsive. That means you have no control over it. At a point, it comes to the fact where you don't care whether you're losing or whether you're winning. What you're addicted to is the feeling that comes actually from it.
Selling most of your properties just for gambling. He said, don't worry, that money is coming, that he believes that money will come, that even though he lose today, he will win tomorrow. And that was how he kept on losing and losing and losing until he sold the last of his shop.
Yeah, welcome to Timeline. My name is Paul, and with me here is my favorite guest,
Jennifer Kizito.
And also I have the one that is always around.
Hi guys, my name is Jonese.
Is that John? That's how it's meant to be.
Okay, Jonese.
Exactly. More like it. Today we're talking about gambling addiction. I think most people today in our environment have access to one way of gambling or the other, either it's sports, being in the casino or in the polo club. Either way, people are gambling here and there, and some people find themselves addicted to this particular habit. And WHO has said that about 1% to 3% of the global population are actually addicted to gambling. I think it's also important that we stress that being addicted to gambling means the repetition. It's not just about probably gambling once or twice and then you leave it, but it's the repetitive behavior, you going back to it back and forth again. It could also be referred to as compulsive gambling or gambling disorder.
That's very, very true. So we have actually causes of key causes that can actually trigger this particular addiction, and one of it is escapism, one of the psychological effects or causes, I mean. And this particular thing is, you see people that are depressed or, going through a lot of things, particularly mental health conditions, okay? So, and they're like, what will I do now to go away from this particular thing I'm going through, from the forces of the world and all that of life? And they'll be like, okay, let me just venture into gambling. So they see gambling as something that, okay, we go into it and we shut off the world. They go out of that particular scenario they are going through at that particular time, and they start finding solace in it. So I think one of it is this psychological thing that's about depression. And
another thing again is the fact that people might actually find a way, right, to just see themselves going into it. They're just, because they are looking for a way to leave the world. They're looking for something that will make them feel good, right? Because probably they just got out of a very toxic relationship, got out and probably lost their job or things like that. And all of that trauma just lands on them, and they just want to feel good one way or the other. And it brings us to the next one, which is how the one way or the other the brain has a role to play in this, right? That's talking about there's this hormone that is called dopamine.
Dopamine.
Yeah, which is a feel-good hormone. It's the one that makes you feel good. Probably you win something and then you're happy, and then you just want to feel that dopamine rush again, over and over and over again, and then you just find yourself going back at it, and then it grows on you naturally, and it just keeps growing like that.
Yeah, so talking about dopamine, it's a neurotransmitter in the brain. So what happens is that it's a very, very happy hormone. So when when people gamble, there is this release of dopamine in the brain, which makes you happy when you win. And also, funny enough, is also released when you lose, because you want to chase. One thing with gambling addiction is that you are chasing losses. for every time you lose, you want to reclaim the
Your
money that
losses,
you've
yeah.
lost.
Yeah.
And you believe in yourself that you can do it. So that dopamine is still being released and you are chasing. It makes you want to chase the losses that you are having. So dopamine, yes, is a very happy hormone, and it has been linked with gambling addiction because of the joy that comes with winning. And one thing with gambling is that you win once and you think that
It's
Yeah,
going to be consistent.
the first time you try, it's almost like you win immediately.
Exactly.
And then you notice that from there onwards, there are losses following. Meanwhile, sometimes it's actually that you lose first, but because you see others winning, you want to keep
You're
chasing the
encouraged,
loss,
yeah.
and then you're encouraged to try more.
Yeah, like, I read this story, right, of a guy in the US while he was young. He gambled. He started gambling at the age of 18, right? And he started with $20. And on that very first day, he was able to, from $20, increase it to like 10. Was $1,000, and for him that was like big money now. So
Yeah.
he kept going back at it. I think at the age of 24, he fell into a very huge debt over 70,000 US dollars, and it just started from him winning a very huge sum at the very first
Yeah.
time. Felt happy, went back again, and this time around he was not able to get that same return as the first time. I was now trying to get that return. Like it's more like it had happened before. And then there's this thing that some of them say that, okay, I've lost like 4 times already. This next
This one will be the big
it has
bang.
to be it to clear all of those losses, and that it just keeps going like that.
Let me even say that you see this social cultural pressure that you have to be fast and get rich that kind of thing. This particular pressure that comes from parents, from your friends and all that. And you see this person will be like, oh, okay, let me just go into gambling so that I'll get quick money and all that, use money to get more money. So that particular pressure that comes from home or from the village and all that, and you are seeing that your friends are already making it and be like, okay, let me just go into this thing and let's see if I'll make more money from it. So that's another like cause that can actually trigger it.
Like, I mean, you see people around, like, let's say as we are 3 on the table now, right?
Yeah.
And then you are winning, and then me now, I'm not winning. I'm like, if these 2 people are winning, me too,
There's a possibility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I just keep going because those around me, right, are seeing the wins and things like that. There are some people who even borrow money, right, just to be able to gamble.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to stress that some people they do it with almost anything. I think I mentioned that of sporting, sports betting, online casinos, going into casinos and things like that. There are even people that they could just sit down probably at a bar, for example, and then the next thing they're betting on the next person to enter the room is going to be a male and not a female.
Yeah.
They're betting on like very, very random things that they don't. Some people can go as far as betting against or for the weather. Like it will rain tomorrow. It's like the time that the sun will come out, things and these people with this addiction, right? They don't even care about if they lose or win. They just want to do it.
Keep doing
They don't care if the returns is going to be higher than what they're investing inside. They just want to do it for the doing sake.
And this is where we stress the fact that gambling addiction is compulsive. That means you have no control over it.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the fact that it is compulsion. Like, just like you said, at a point it comes to the fact where you don't care whether you're losing or whether you're winning. What you're addicted to is the feeling that comes actually from it. So that rush of dopamine, that rush of like the joy,
Euphoria,
even the tension that comes with waiting for the results, people can actually get addicted to it with time.
I know some people that they can't watch football without actually putting money on it, like trying to bet on. Like for them, it's not interesting. Like they'll tell you that why would I watch football and not bet? Like
Exactly.
if they're watching the ball and then they have their money somewhere, it becomes more interesting for them to watch. It becomes more engaging for them to watch.
Exactly.
And that thing again is the financial desperation. Some people have very crazy high hopes for money and they are desperate on the very, very high side. They just want to make that big win at once. Probably they see in the news that so person won
1 billion naira.
Exactly.
From betting with 100 naira.
Exactly. That kind of thing.
Exactly.
And then the next thing they're like, this guy they ginger me. Like it's
motivation.
Exactly. That would be that motivation.
But it's also important to know that as much as we're talking about this as a cause, is also an effect. Even though we are saying finances is causes people to
go in, yeah.
It's also an effect also, because
Yes.
it affects, sometimes it's just that you went into this thing and then you're having financial issues.
Yes.
So we must also know that most of these things are actually also both cause and effects. You know, we also mentioned psychological factors also, and we are going to looking at anxiety, depression. Some people stay at home and they're wondering, okay, what will I do my time? They are depressed with life and all those things. Just like you said, you want to escape the realities of life, all those kind of things. But at the same time, depression can also be as a resultant effect of gambling compulsively. So you've gambled, and then we are now seeing that as a result of that gambling, then you're now having depression. So it's not just depression leading to it. Sometimes depression can also be an aftermath or a cause, an effect of actually gambling.
Like, I've read stories of people like in the UK now, I think in the US, where this man gambled with his house without the wife knowing.
Yeah.
Like,
So
the
they are
wife,
not sleeping outside.
like, the wife was just like on a random day, someone just comes to her house that, oh, you guys should pack out very soon.
Wow.
And then she's asking her husband like, okay, what really happened?
Yeah.
And that's how she found out that, oh, this guy has gone to gamble, and then now they are homeless basically. They are living in a home that is no longer theirs because he has used his house. I think it's funny for me because this will use anything and everything to. They can use their car, their house, like very. Some people go as far as when they don't have money again and they have probably shares in a particular company. They use shares, they use their stock. They are ready to go as far as anywhere to do all of these things.
Let me tell you something. There was one day I was coming to work and I entered this particular car. So they shall carried me for free, but in the car, I learned a lot of things. And the topic was this gambling. So this particular man that was driving, his boss, like, you know what we used to call this apprenticeship? So he was actually an apprentice to a man, like when he was still very, very young. Then he now got independence, you get. So during the course of his whole apprenticeship stuff, the Oga, according to him, was so wealthy. Like, he had a lot of money, a lot of shops. You know how Igbo men used to have their businesses now. So he has shop 1, shop 2, shop 3. And at the end of the day, at some point, the man started gambling. So before you know it, withdrawing 1 naira, 1 naira, 1. That's how he started withdrawing one after the other. And this guy that was his apprentice as at then was just telling him, oh God, this one that you're always selling, you started selling most of your properties just for gambling. He said, don't worry, that money is coming, that he believes that money will come, that even though he lose today, he will win tomorrow. And that was how he kept on losing and losing and losing until he sold the last of his shop. And by that time, this guy now that was driving has become independent. That as he was telling us that as he's talking to us right now, the man feeding is him. Like, he's the one now giving the man money to feed him and his family. That's to tell you how crazy the effects can be. And this is me talking about you losing your job and losing your finances. You start going into debt because you want to continue. Like, you believe, just like the way the man believed, that one day
you'll make
his prayers will be he will make it. His prayers will be answered. But unfortunately, his prayers were not answered and he's now living in debt.
Okay, we'll go on a short break now, and it's a very sad story. But we'll go on a short break, and once we return, we'll pick up from where we stopped. It's still timeline. We'll be right back.
Every day, amazing stories of hope and tenacity unfold across the globe. On Hued Hour, we dive into these inspiring tales and discuss the vital work being done in the humanitarian and development space. Humanity has never faced a shortage of challenges, yet we rise stronger through teamwork and determination. Though these remedies are often underreported, on Hued Hour, we advocate sustainable solutions. We bring you the latest and most impactful news on how lives are being changed. We engage with young change makers and experts who provide valuable insights into relief efforts and the challenges faced by local communities through a global perspective. Join us every Wednesday by 8 a.m. on Hued Network's YouTube channel as we embark on this journey of positive change.
everyone. Let's face it, our world today experiences numerous challenges. And guess what? Our community isn't off the hook either. Most of the world issues are either not talked about enough or never talked about at all. But here on Timeline, we've got you covered. We dive deep into issues that affect us every day, leaving behind footprints of wisdom, knowledge, and solutions. Think of it like a roadmap that keeps you on the track for success. So buckle up, because in this new season of Timeline, we're taking another trip through the past, the present, and navigate into a more promising future. Again, we're talking solutions, people. And let's make one thing clear. This is not your average blah, blah, blah convo. This is real talk with a side of inspiration and a sprinkle of wow. I never thought about it like that. I'm your host on this impactful ride. Together, we'll tackle the tough stuff, laugh a little, and find ourselves on the path to positive change. So what are you waiting for? Season 2 of Timeline will be loaded. Let's get started. Hop in, and let's drive straight into the hearts of issues shaping our world. Let's go. Oh, one more thing. Hit that subscribe button and let's take this ride together.
Have you ever been in a space where everyone's talking about complex or complicated issues? It's interesting because if they are complex and complicated, how does everyone know about them if they truly do? It's like your social media feed. Sometimes it feels like just one big puzzle, like a basket of hot takes and wild theories, unverified claims, and those moments that leave your head spinning and spinning. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to find on your phone. Maybe aliens are invading, or the earth is not round, it's actually flat. Okay, those are figments of imagination, but admit it, for a second there, you weren't entirely sure if I was right or wrong, were you? But here's the thing, being confused by all this is normal, but getting to the truth, well, that's about to get a whole lot easier as we unravel things that have been shrouded in mystery and confusion no matter the field. Now on Untangle, we take those complicated and confusing topics swirling around your feed and break them down piece by piece by piece until everything clicks into place. Every week right here alongside an expert in the field, we're going to tackle a topic that's got everyone talking. It could be a viral trend you're not sure about, a scientific concept that keeps popping up, a new law or an event, or one of those stories that just won't go away. No fancy jargon, no unnecessary complexity, just clear, straightforward answers that you can actually use. So join us every Monday by 10 a.m. weekly on Hugh Network's YouTube channel. And when you do, be ready to untangle.
Yeah, welcome back. This is your Timeline, and we're talking about gambling addiction. That's also known as compulsive gambling. And we've mentioned a few things dabbled here and there, and we're still on the effects of gambling, of this gambling addiction. I mean, one thing that actually shocked me while I was going through this topic was the fact that there's some people that one way or the other now find themselves into crime just because so as to gamble. Like you see stories of people that want to steal something so that they can sell it, and then from selling they now come to the betting store and then now begin to gamble with the money. I once saw a story where someone borrowed had a loan, like created a loan, right? And from the loan store, he went into the betting shop, right? And then he spent all of that there, coming out with nothing. And it's, for me, it's just is wild, because why will you go and collect loan just so as to be able to gamble with something that is not even physical? And there's even the one of there are gamblings where it is not human again now that they are doing it with. It's just going to be like probably like horses running, and they're just like computer programs, right? They're just programmed in a way that they just go on their own, and people gamble against that again. And for me, it's just very shocking, really. And there are those that go into fraud, probably steal public funds, probably because they have access to it.
Yeah.
And then they now begin to siphon it to themselves like that. And then if they are caught, right, it leads again to their job being lost.
And I think another effect that actually comes with this is that your family will start separating themselves from you, or not even that one. You will start separating yourself from your family because number one, trust is broken. You don't even believe in yourself anymore. You start feeling somehow, and in fact, everything will just start crumbling in front of you. So in fact, I don't even know. This particular gambling thing is just too much.
And still on the family, you know, one thing with it is that it has an effect on the family in that the finances of the family is broken, like it's scattered.
Especially if the person is the breadwinner.
Exactly. Imagine a father. I read a story once of a man that had spent so much money, had taken money from his wife's retirement funds and then spent it. Still went to his son's trust funds and has spent it. So by the time they found out about it, everything was gone. So there was he had to go to jail. And according to him, the story he told, he said that when he got to court, because he had collected so many loans from different places, from different organizations, and then most of those people were suing him. So by the time he got to court, what the judge told him is that her prescription for him is that he must go to jail, because he was expecting that they would maybe let him go and pay. No, but the judge said that he needed to go to jail, and that's the only way to wake him up to the reality of what gambling was. So imagine losing your family and then you had to go to jail because of it. So it destroys a lot of things, the family finances, because you realize that you're taking money that does not belong to you. Money that you have apportioned for some certain things, you begin to spend them based on compulsion. So it's really crazy.
And suicidal thoughts should not even be excluded from this whole effect, because by the time you've gone through all this kind of thing now, some people will just become, what's not the point of living? Let me just cook.
Especially when you have spent a large amount of money and you don't know where to get to repay.
Everything is just choking you your neck. And there is nobody. If you go to your left, everybody's calling you that you are in debt. You go to your right, you are a debtor. Front and back, you are a debtor. So the only thing that can actually come to most people's minds, or some of them, is that okay, let me just commit suicide, because when they are no longer seeing me, everybody will forget about their money.
Well, there's this story of this man I read in the US, right, where for him he had he was first gambling back to back, got addicted to it. One way or the other, his wife found out and then took him to rehab and came out and all of that, and it was fine. And then during the lockdown again, he had opportunity. I think then there were different promos like free betting, like you bet without money, and so he stayed with that secretly without the wife knowing, and then from there he started depositing money gradually, and then he found himself back at it again, and now he was in greater debt again than before. And what he did was that now he killed himself. The interesting thing for me was the fact that the wife that they were were both on lockdown together didn't know that something like that was going on. And it was after the police gave her husband's phone, then she went through it, and then she was seeing all of the things that he was doing, and this man left behind not just her but also with her children. And there's a name that they call people like that, which is the affected order, right? Because they are now affected not by their own behavior but someone else's behavior. I mean, this man now, for example, that committed suicide, he has his wife is there, she has a friend for the family, and imagine that she does not have a job now. Before now she has to now go look for a job, putting the whole family at a very impossible situation. I mean, we've said enough about all of these things. So how do you even prevent these people from going into all of these things in the first place? Because I think it's one major issue that we should also need to look at is the fact that it's very accessible to us now. I mean, before now, right? If you want to place a bet on sports, right, you have to walk a distance. Not just even go to a center. You are walking a distance to that particular center. But now they are now. They're now like just on your street, just beside you. There's that one, and then there's not the one that's just on your mobile phone. In fact, even if you don't have your mobile phone, tell somebody to give you his own phone or his own laptop. It's one way or the other. We're on the www on the internet. You would see several of them, and there's also the thing of ads as well. But how do we even couple of these things from happening in the first place?
Okay, so I think one of the things we have to notice that unlike drug addiction or alcohol addiction or the rest of them, gambling addiction is more like an addiction that people experience in the shadows. You can barely tell that someone is gambling. You can't look at someone and say this person is a gambler.
It doesn't show on the face.
It doesn't show on the face. So it's only when the effects begin to show. And sometimes it takes a long time before the effects begin to show. Maybe by the time the person has sold everything the person has, that's when you notice it. So that's why it's very difficult to detect. But I think part of the things that we have to, for my own recommendation, I would say that government should look into the system of how this betting goes, these betting companies. People, if you want to register, if you want to bet, it should be as serious as log in your NIN details. Because now we have minors betting.
Yes.
We have...
I mean...
it's crazy.
There's this story I read where there's this young guy, he was going to the betting store to bet. They'll collect his money and then he lose. And then the one time that he finally won, they did not give him his money. They said he's a minor.
Oh, exactly.
But they were collecting it when before.
So we should have like NIN details, like when people register for these betting companies and all those things, they should have NIN details put in. This means that you must be up to age to bet, number one.
18, yes.
And you know that when you're registering, they'll ask for your voter's card, the necessary documents. Before you will get all those things to register, we'll know who you are at the end of the day. Then secondly, there should be a limited number of times people should be allowed to bet in a week using an app.
That's tricky.
It's tricky, but it should be like that. This is my own personal recommendation because if we keep going the way we are going, there are countries where this is not even an issue. Like countries like China, this is not an issue because they regulate a lot of things. So I believe that we can look at these things and look at this is what we should do in a week. The system should be able to say, you betted on Monday, you betted on Wednesday, you can't log in anymore. If we are able to regulate things like this, then people will not overuse apps and overuse their betting their betting advantages now. So this is it. And if you already have someone that is already fighting gambling addiction, the best way to detect it, one, is to know if the person is beginning to sell things. When you notice people are beginning to lose things, ask questions. You will see it will start with a change of phone. Maybe the person is using an iPhone, you'll notice that it has reduced to a Samsung phone. It has reduced to a Techno phone. Like, you will see the progression. Ask questions. If the person is beginning to lose properties at home, you visit the person, there is no TV. There was TV today, there's no TV tomorrow. Find out what is going on. Ask questions. Why are things changing? And family support is very, very important. This is where parents have to actually come into, or parents for minors, and then relatives and loved ones for grown-ups. Do you understand? Notice the patterns. Don't just live your life in isolation, I always say. The thing is, with the way we are in the world, where everybody is actually almost in their own space, you can almost not tell. But actually, if we look at it, if we are very, very deliberate about looking at people and the way they change, if you see people change, you can actually know when people change. So I think it's better if you are very, very careful, if you are very, very observant, you can know when people are actually changing with time.
I literally like that thing you said about like putting restriction on how many times you can bet in a week. I think this is what brings me to my point of self-exclusion. That can actually help because you as a person can tame yourself. Like by the time you are being restricted, you'll be like, let's say you wanted to log in on Wednesday. I'll be like, I can't bet on Wednesday. So you see that because of that particular restriction, you are
developing self-control.
Exactly. You start developing self-control on that. And also, this particular awareness that we are doing, just like the way we are doing right now, let other platforms as well tell people the consequences of gambling. So that you will not go there. Like, sensitization is very, very important. So you not go there now and be thinking that you win 1 million. By the time you use 100 naira, and then you now come out, or you put 1 million and you get 100 naira. And just understand that this thing you're doing, there are good part of it, and there is also a negative part of it that you should chest it. So when it comes, just chest it and don't cry and don't feel bad. And this whole addiction thing, it's rehabilitation is very, very important. If it's possible, this particular advice now is going to their friends and loved ones, because somebody that is already an addict cannot carry himself and go to rehab. So the people around him or her should, him or her, her too.
Yes,
it's just guys. Funny enough, when I went to when I was doing my IT in a neuropsychiatry in Enugu, one of the things that I met a lady there who was into actually gambling. She had gambled a lot, like she was now begging her family. The thing with these people is that they tell you, I won't do it again. So she was actually begging her family, like that she won't do it again. But when we were not asking questions, when I got there, and we're not asking questions, we found out that this is actually the 5th time they are bringing the lady to the rehabilitation center.
Wow.
That's just the 5th time in about 4 years that they are bringing her back there. So it's the family's duty to actually note that this thing is out of hand. Let's take them to the appropriate authorities.
Yes. And I think this is very, very important. So, like, don't even leave your child like that. I know there are parents that will not actually leave their child, but there are people that will actually just say, And of course, we are in a place where everybody's from Oyo State. Like, I mean, you are literally on your own, but you're not actually on your own. Yes. So if you see something, actually say something. Don't feel because this child is not your own. And I believe now everybody in the train picking. So don't feel that this particular child is not my own. So let me just mind my business. Because if you're not there tomorrow and your child, God forbid, is actually going through that part, another person will actually draw that child to
for me,
the right path.
Starting from self-exclusion, right? I think I started with myself, right? There was time that I will always, anything I see on the internet, I want to buy it, that kind of thing. So I noticed that once I see something and I like it, I'll just bring out my card and then next thing I've bought it already. Exactly. And it happened for like a while. And I noticed that I had a whole lot of things that I don't even need in the house again. So the very first thing I did, right, was to go and deactivate my card from any online purchase. So in that period, even if I wanted to pay for something that probably it costs online, right, I couldn't do that. And so that was just me stopping myself intentionally. Right? And then I stopped. I think I did the app as well because there was this particular, because there's this, my friend that even calls me the name of that app that's, because she knows that every time.
Yeah, they're regular customer.
Exactly. She called me the one that will help me pick it up sometimes if I'm not around. So that was how bad it was for me. But for me, I noticed that when I did that, right, I did the app, I stopped my card from being able to pay online, right? When I did all of that, I didn't even see, sometimes I'll see something, I'll just scroll that, I cannot pay for it, right? And if they could do that as well, you could just go and meet your account manager. Okay, please, restrict my card from being able to do it, because most of the time, right, this person that incurred over 70,000 debts, right? He didn't go to the casino to go and play poker. It was in his house where he was playing the poker. So if you just restrict yourself from being able to add money to your account and all of these things, it will just naturally, even yourself, you will not even see the need to even go back to it. There are several stories here and there. I mean, I have a friend that today you can call him, his phone will go through. The other day, his phone is not going through. If you should ask him what happened to your phone, so person collected it because I borrowed money and I could not pay back. And then it's what do you use the money for? You use it to gamble and then you didn't get the money back. Like all of these things are things that we just need to check on ourselves, ensure that we don't do too much. And if everybody is saying that, there's this game that is coming and everybody's like, there's this Champions League day that everybody on Twitter was literally bet that day, because the next morning, it was even the next morning I got to know that, so now plenty like this, everybody now started posting together, I'm not leaving the trenches again, that kind of thing. Like before the game, everybody was shouting, we're leaving the trenches this night, because there were like a long list of games that day. And usually when things like that happen, it's expected that people bets. In fact, that one is another story for another day. People bet in a very high number. So again, if we could also regulate all of these things, and the government has their roles to play, we as community members also have our roles to play. And if we could all be on board with this, I mean, the World Bank says that one of the things that exacerbates poverty in developing nations is actually gambling. Like, so if we could also watch it, and like, I mean, people, instead of getting basic needs, they're using the money for basic needs to gamble. I mean,
there are other things you can actually put your money in.
I know,
and it's
right?
just legit things rather. There are
Yes.
other legit things you can put your money in.
And it's funny that
will
gambling
multiply
is
for you.
legalized now. So,
Yes.
you know, and I think the government has to actually also bring out laws to this effect. You don't just legalize things and then there are no laws backing them.
Yeah,
So
I think enforcement is another thing that we need to watch going forward, right? It's important. I mean, even if you have to gamble at all, I'm not saying you should gamble, but even if you have to gamble at all, ensure that you have all your basic needs and you have probably you have a little miscellaneous somewhere, and out of that little miscellaneous, you just take little again. And if it goes, it goes. I mean, there's this saying that says that when the fund stops, stop. So meaning that when you're not seeing the returns like you used to before, just stop. Don't go further again. And I think we've been able to do justice to this topic. Thank you very much for coming once again, Kizito.
Thank you.
It's been a very lovely episode with you. My name remains Paul, and with me here was
Gionese.
Till we come your way again. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Bye for now.
Bye guys.